How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 3. A lot happened in the last episode. I really don't know how I can sum it up, because it went from utter depression and sadness from the trauma that was just pouring out of Sotoko to Keiichi going a little insane. And I want to say that, oh, it's just, one of those episodes, but no, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned of what Keiichi might be planning here. So now we're asking our mother here what the perfect crime may be and what she has read. He's trying to think of a way to kill her uncle, to kill Sotoko's uncle, thinking that will solve all the issues. In 1500 seconds, no less. I don't know why 1500 seconds. I think that's like 25 minutes if you convert it.
母さんって結構たくさん推理小説を読んでるでしょ。そういうの詳しいかなって思って。
それを読むから楽しいのよ。初めからトリックを教えちゃったら楽しみがなくなっちゃうわ。
It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer.
そうね。よくできた推理小説。結構どれもこれもいろんな魅力があって、どれが面白かったとは言いにくいけど、強いてあげれば。
母さんの好きな小説のタイトルが知りたいんじゃないよ。母さんが一番舌を巻いた完全トリックが知りたいんだよ。
本当に完全なトリックだったら、名探偵に解く余地がないじゃない。
That was true. Then there'd be no point.
推理小説は解ける謎をいかに解くかの過程を楽しむものよ。解けない謎だったら、それは推理小説の題材になり得ないわね。
そっか、そりゃそうだよな。主人公に解けなかったら、お話として成立しないもんな。
Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that you can get to the goal, so that you can solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be the be-all end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives.
ということは、ケイチ、真の完全犯罪は物語にすらならないというのがわかるかしら？
Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I'd never gotten to read it, but apparently one time a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently she was really into it. Don't even become stories. What does that mean?
ケイチ、物語の最低構成要素は？
起承転結。
Why did I predict that? God, I'm losing my mind.
正解。特に肝心なのは当たり前だけど、木に当たる部分よ。スタートの木がなかったら、そもそも物語は始まらない。
A beginning requires a hook. Establish all your pieces, and then go from there.
そりゃそうだよ。何も起こらなかったら何も始まらない。
そう。何も起こらないから事件にもならない。探偵も呼ばれないから推理もない。推理がないなら解決もない。つまり、これが究極の完全犯罪。
ちょっと待って。もう一度説明してくれるかな。
My mom just told me something absurd. And she was saying it so smoothly too, so I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just now.
そんな難しい話じゃないわよ。そもそも事件が発覚しなければいいだけの話。
そもそも発覚しない事件。
つまり、例えばよ、誰も立ち入らない深い森の奥でおじいさんが一人暮らしをしているとする。そのおじいさんがある日、斧で殺されました。ちなみに犯人は、じゃあ、おじいさんの息子ね。おじいさんの家に来て一緒にお酒を飲んでいたんだけど、ちょっと喧嘩になって殺してしまった。
What an extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect crime.
でもケイチ、そこはとてもとても深い森の中の一軒家なの。普段は絶対に誰も訪れない深い山奥の深い い森の中。さて、殺した息子は町に帰ってきてこう言うの。おじいさんは元気だったって。
それのどこが完全犯罪なの？
圭一、この事件はね、おじいさんが殺されているのが見つかって初めて木を迎えるのよ。もしもこの後誰もおじいさんの家を訪れなかったら、永久に木は訪れない。
The beginning would never occur.
だからつまり物語は始まらない。事件が発覚しないから探偵も呼ばれない。そもそも誰も不審に思わないから謎も起こらない。おじいさんは今日も一人でのんびり森の奥で暮らしているんだろうね。で、お空におじいさんの顔が浮かんで、ジエンド。どう？こんな感じで。
すごいじゃないか。それちゃんとしたトリックだよ。
でも娯楽小説にはならないわね。推理小説は所詮娯楽書。完全犯罪の指南書にはなり得ないんだから。
I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of a Yashiro-sama. When the night of Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. I mean, he had been living with a lover of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in killing or in thinking inside my house anymore. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I just had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide when I shivered. I've been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time, but if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of Watanagashi. So as long as I was standing in for Yashiro-sama, I had 24 hours remaining. Sodoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second, I know that. But please just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. So today's drink of the session is water. Yep, that is water. So it definitely looks like Keiichi is fucking batshit insane now. And I don't actually mean that as a joke too much. I took a class on, or a criminology class on psychopathy, what really makes a psychopath. I think we're beginning to see the makings of one. To see somebody think that it's totally okay for this to be an option is definitely just throwing away morals and just thinking ahead with it. Absolutely the definition. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy, Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I had heard a little bit of thunder, I'd definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. This music is very weird. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. The same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable, but this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. I think we need to go for reliability more than just, oh yeah, let's go with this pattern sort of deal. But, whatever. You just needed to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, were still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, a weapon with more reach, like a staff, would be more advantageous. It might not be quite as inherently lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you kill him, the end result would be the same. So what's a staff-like deadly weapon, terrifyingly powerful and also eminently portable? By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of course, or of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Which is why we did it in Chapter 1. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school. At a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as if I'd just gotten to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped into a place like that, would the desks and their surprise fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive? Damn, we really are losing our mind. I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. It's reminding me of Wonderful Everyday. God, I just got reminded of another scene from that. Jesus. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker, one I had accidentally discovered one day. If one person has one locker, then why would only Soroko have two? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time I let my curiosity get the better of me, and I took a peek inside. Inside it was average and worthless. At the time, I hadn't been interested, so until now I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been in there. Sorry, getting another drink of that water. I opened the locker and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes. Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform. And it. The one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes. This was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role, it was Satoshi's. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There is no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now I just needed to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it, because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. Or so you think. I left out the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off, and from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left there for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years, you can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot, my head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dulled thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head and then looked around warily. Okay. Next, how to dispose of the corpse. Okay, so I want to throw this out. You guys remember chapter 1? How Rena was following us when she was, made to not really trust us all this much, And I guess the same was the other way around. We didn't trust her. Rena was following us. So what's not to say that she's not following us now, What if we are being followed by one of our friends or someone in general? Well, there's the beginning of our story. If there's a witness, that's it. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. This is basically the whole demoning away deal, the sacrifice. They disappear, but in the end they are dying. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Onigafuchi, the dreadful bottomless swamp revered even now, that appeared in the legends of Onigafuchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onigafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onigafuchi village. In other words, this swamp was the origin of Onigafuchi village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of the demons below the earth. That was how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, then I felt that theory demanded I discard the remains and the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why when using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse the year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in this swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too, it was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up or them finding it. Then shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out on a motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Sotoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse, after a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being drowned in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut him into pieces and hide him, but the preparation and work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I would want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head for the various destinations her uncle would head to from Sotoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily, it was almost unbelievable. A bit of a back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Yagauchi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through those woods first. And nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Sotoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal, as few people used it. I would wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Sotoko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him there? That man made Sotoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Sotoko go to the festival? Sotoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okonomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Sotoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion: if he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Sotoko would go to the festival leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Sotoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Sotoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact and get her there. Sotoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she got home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew further away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place.
穴を掘るか。
God damn. Sorry, hold on, guys. I gotta get a drink of this water. Yeah, there's just so much reading going on here. Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd manage with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into that. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down. Yeah, because if it rains or something, like, if the body's too far up, wouldn't it just expose it? Didn't that happen in an episode of SpongeBob or something? But if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I'd absolutely could not allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed to get her to promise Sotoko to take her... to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on a time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime, sorry. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack. So it was only natural that I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way. A truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Sotoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. He had a scary face and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have all the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned? But was the actual murder the most important part? What unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all my perfectly concealed machinations. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Damn it! After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiichi Maibara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder. To kill someone for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop, those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. an unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keiichi Maibara. Or is that permeate? Whatever. If that will turn your timidly into... Or fuck me. Yeah, okay. The timidness into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution. Goddamn, just all this speaking and reading is killing me. Then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. Oh, I believe you. But at least we're back home, where at least there's some sanity. Am I right? Please tell me I'm right. All right. Before we call Mion's house, we're gonna end this episode around the 30-minute mark, so not too bad, but could have gone a little longer. But goddamn, all that reading and all that speaking has killed me. This is why I don't record visual novels that are just no voice lines whatsoever by voice actors. I struggle to read out loud as much as I used to on the channel. I used to speak a lot more. Like, goddamn did I used to speak, but it's become harder on me. I begin to lose my voice, actually, if I speak for too long. I don't know how I can get away with it in normal commentary, but for just reading out loud for half an hour is, like, my limit. But thank you all for watching this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. I guess Keiichi really is planning to murder. My god. So I guess that's the direction we're going in. I don't really know how else to say it or what else to really put out there. Just holy shit. 1,500 seconds though. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed, you know the drill. Next episode, we'll continue planning, I guess.